Alright guys, so welcome to part 2 of our beginner's guide to Wuthering Waves in 2025. In our previous video we went over the interface and basic things that you need to understand here in the menu. We navigated the different menus and explained them thoroughly. So with all of that out of the way, we're going to continue today by talking about the resonators in this game. Alright, so if you're playing on PC, if you hold Alt and navigate to the top here and click the head right here, it takes you to this screen. Or if you hit C on your keyboard, it also takes you here. Alright, but if you're on like a console, you can just hit menu and go to resonators. Alright,
father destinations together.
now this will be the screen where they display all of your characters, and this is where you would level up your characters, specifically level up their weapons, level up their echoes, and the echoes are the equivalent of artifacts in other games like Genshin Impact or solo leveling. The resonance skill tree, that's what I call this, but it's actually called the forte. All right, this is your skill tree you level up this to make them stronger. All right, and then resonance chain is basically advancement in solo leveling, or in Genshin Impact this is considered a constellation. All right, you get multiple characters here, multiple copies of the same character to level this up. All right, you can get it by wishing, or you can just purchase it in the event shop item exchange. You would get their wave bands. Wave bands are what are considered as constellations in this game. All right, for Rover you will get them for free by doing just your milestones and taking in Sun's caskets. All right, as well as doing another event in Mount Firmament. You can get Spectral Rover all the way up to level 6 or maxed out, right? And Spectral will be all the way up to level 3. All right, on their resonance chain. Now, information is just like in other gacha games. When you play a character for a certain period of time, you level them up because you get like friendship XP or something. And this would unlock their information, which would give you more information on the character. Tell you about like their secrets, what they like, the food they prefer, where they come from, which is important, their forte, and all of that good information. All right, and sometimes there'll also be information in here on how they interact with other characters. All right, guys, so now that we've did a brief description of what all of these are, let's just go a little bit more in depth. So let's say that you're fresh. This is what your character would look like, because I've never leveled Ling Yang ever, right? That's I just didn't want to. All right, so your characters come with a base 5% crit rate and a base 150% crit damage. All right, now what this means is that it's easy to get your crit damage up. It's just that you need to focus a little more on your crit rate. And believe me, it's not as hard as it seems, because what happens is when you level up your characters on their forte or their skill tree, some characters will get crit rate and some characters will get a little more crit damage. All right, usually they would get more than likely they would usually get glacial damage bonus or elemental damage bonus and attack damage bonus. With one character specifically, it might be defense if they scale on defense. But there are some like Jian, for example, who gets crit rate, and Camellia. I think Camellia got crit damage from this. Yeah, she got crit damage, and Jian got crit rate. There you go. All right. So if we go back to Ling Yang, right here would be all of the information on the character. Their energy regen is always a base 100%. You can raise it. If you click this button right here, you would actually get more information on the character. All right, which would go more in depth, because they would talk about resident skill damage bonus, basic attack damage bonus, because some characters like Camellia, most of her attacks are converted to basic attack damage. Some characters like Jian, for example, when you use his elemental burst, it becomes heavy attacks instead of elemental burst damage. Or resonance liberation, I'm calling it burst. Resonance liberation, right? When you use Jian's resonance liberation, it becomes heavy attacks. All right. And some characters, for example, like Chang Li, who is very strong on resonance skill damage, you would usually want to build her on this. All right. So going down to their weapon, but you know what? Let's not talk about that. Let's talk about here. All right. So you have the same window here, and this one specifically would go for the echoes in general. All right. So you notice that everything is zeroed out. When you start adding your echoes, you would see the percentage go up here, and then this bonus would be added to your base, and then you would get an overall estimate right here. All right, on what your character is doing. So to demonstrate that, let's go to my Camellia. And what happened is she's still, I leveled her up to level 90, but I took away her weapon, and I also took off her echoes. All right, so we can demonstrate what's going on. All right, as you can see, she has her crit damage is more than 150%. That's because she got it from her forte, and I already have her forte maxed out. All right, we'll talk a little bit more about this soon. So we're going back here. So what happens is, all right, some characters, when you level them up, you'll get, you know, their HP, their attack, their defense go up, but their crit rate and their crit damage is solely based on their echoes and their weapon. All right, now what happens is some characters get a signature weapon with crit rate, some get it with crit damage. All right, so what happens is when you have crit rate on your weapon, for example, Camellia's, for example, that's a base 24.3%, right? So it makes it way easier, and as you can see now, she's at a 29.3 because of the 5% that was already there. All right, so what happens is when you start leveling up your characters, you have their weapon. When you know the weapon that they will have, it makes it easier to work on their echoes. All right, so let's say, for example, Jian, his signature weapon is crit damage. Okay, now before we go any further, let's talk about leveling up the characters.
Would you like
right here? You would need resonance potions. All right, and you get the resonant potions from simulation training, or when you just start out. There will be a lot of events that will keep giving you these stuff, and like also doing like your milestones and doing like your daily stuff, and keep progressing the game. You'll literally get those for free, and you'll have them in abundance. All right, so resonance potion level up your characters, and world overworld materials. All right, let's say like Howling cores or FF cores and Whispering cores, and then when they reach a certain level, you'll need to go inside the domain, the specific domain for each character, to actually get the material that they would want. Right, when they hit like level 60 or level 70, at that point you'll need to start farming an overworld boss. For Camellia, it would be the fallacy in the Black Shores. For Jian, it would be the Felian Baringal in
let your guard down.
The forest. For Chang Li, it would be the Inferno Rider in the port city of Guizhou.
By ingenuity.
All right, because that is for fusion. The monkey is for arrow. Camellia is Havoc. The fallacy and her has no relation. The only relation they have is that they're both from the Black Shores, and that's the main reason why you needed to get the fallacy for her, because she's Havoc, but the fallacy is actually Spectral. All right. The weapon is easy to level up as well. Usually they would require the same domain as the Resonator that have them, so you would farm the same domain. The only thing is you would have to farm it a lot, because it requires a lot to get this weapon to level 90, and it costs a lot to get a character to level 90 as well. All right, so now that we know the weapon we're going to use, which is crit rate, let's talk about her echoes. All right, now what happens is echoes have a max cost of 12. All right, each echo in the game has a cost from 4 to 1. So it's 4, 3, 1. There's no 2. Okay? What this means is you're supposed to do a lot of math here and get these numbers to add up to 12. So the comp that you would see most people run, or the comp that I run mostly, is 4, 3, 3, which is 10, and then 1, 1. All right? And that would come up to a max of 12. All right? So for Camellia, I already have her stuff. I just put it on a different character for demonstration purposes. So I'm on all. I'll click 4. 4 are overworld bosses. This is Dreamless. I don't use the Dreamless on her because the Dreamless is mainly for Havoc Rover. Currently, I am using the Crownless, this guy. Now, what happens is her weapon is crit rate. Usually when you have a character with crit rate, you can try and force higher crit damage. In this case, I don't remember why I have this on crit rate, but let's just say this is 22%. So she's already above 50% here. All right. So I am already good with her. Usually when my weapon has crit rate, I tend to try and force higher crit damage on the character. All right. But let's just say, for example, it's probably because I didn't have a lot of resources why I have this guy on crit rate. It's fine. The thing that you need to know though is that on your overworld boss or your forecast, if you have crit rate as a base stat, you can roll crit rate again as a substat. Also, if you have crit damage as a base stat, you can roll crit damage again as a substat. All right. So usually when you're rolling on echoes, if you want to know if you get a good one, you tend to want to get double rolls. All right. What would make this one perfect is if it had basic attack damage bonus, right? Because most of her attacks are converted to basic attack damage. All right. This one is not the best. It's okay, but it's not the best. All right. So let's move on to our next. We're going to do 3 cost. Let's bring up Havoc Eclipse again. Right here, I used this one, Wolf, and this one, the Tambourinist. This boss is horrible when you fight against him. It's not really a boss, it's like an open world enemy. Alright, so what happened here now is the 3 costs, right? You see how you have crit rate and crit damage on your 4 costs? You can have other things as well, like attack, defense, healing bonus, I think. On your 3 costs, it is usually elemental damage bonus, alright? Some characters do better with elemental damage. Some characters do better when you have them at double attack. All right. This is not the perfect build, so please don't take it as a perfect build. All right. Now, our 3 costs here, it has crit rate and crit damage, and it also has basic attack damage bonus. All right. So this right here, I would say that this one is a success. This one also has crit rate, crit damage, and basic attack damage bonus, right? And then if we add our 1 costs, because we're on Camellia, that is pretty much what you're looking for, all right? Our 1 cost, we would go with this one, which is crit rate, crit damage. She has basic attack damage bonus again, right? And then our final 1 cost here would be this one. Wait, let's look at this one. Yeah, we'll use this one. All right. So we have attack, crit rate, crit damage. We got a little energy regen. The double HP is not ideal, but this one is not horrible. It's okay. All right. So if we go back to Camellia, you'll notice that here they would show us that we get 6,200 HP, 867 attack. We get 110 defense, energy regen is 20%, crit rate is 55.9 and crit damage is an extra 72.6 that would be added to our base 150. All right, so if we go back up here, we would see that we have 85% crit rate and 238% crit damage. Now let me just say that this is not ideal, this is not perfect, and this is not my build, so let me just fix that real quick. All right, back. So as you can see, we have 65% crit rate and 288% crit damage. This is my build, right? Now the only thing I did is I just changed the crownness. Remember earlier when I was talking about if your character has crit rate on the weapon, you can try and push for higher crit damage with your echoes, right? So when I added the crownness earlier, which was actually crit rate, that was not the correct one, and that's why I sounded like that earlier. I knew it wasn't what was supposed to be there. All right, so we added the correct one, which is crit damage. So we have crit damage here, attack, crit damage again, which is 19.8% with a 44% base. That is already goated, and then we have 8.7% crit rate. All right. Now we could use something else apart from HP and defense. This is not perfect. We would still like to have basic attack damage bonus here, but for now this is a pretty decent build. All right, because I've used this build specifically to clear most of the hard content in this game. All right, so as you can see here, we would have 763 attack, 35.7% crit rate, and then we would have 122.6% crit damage, which would go on top of the 150% base, and then this is what we would have in total. All right, 120% energy recharge, crit rate 65%, and then crit damage would be 288. Down here, if we go into more details, we would see our resonant skill damage is 7.1%, basic attack damage is 22.9%, right? And we can still get this higher. It would just mean that we'll need to do more RNG rolls on the echoes, which takes a lot of resources. So don't stress yourself out. It does take time to get the perfect echoes, just like any other game. The only thing is, in this game, it's a lot easier because you don't have to farm domains to get these. You farm these in the open world, but you would need resonance, not resonance, you would need the potions to roll into these, right? To roll on the echoes to actually get them how you want them, which does take time, as I said before. Now let's go over the forte. The forte is very easy to level up. It does take just like money and basic materials at the start. When you hit like level 6, you would have to farm a specific domain for this character, because you would need the materials to level up the skill tree. In the middle here, I do believe this one in the middle and maybe the one here. Let me just use Ling Yang as an example. Level 1, as you can see, this is a domain material. You would need that, and you would need an overworld material. All right, Whisper and Cores. Now here you would require a boss drop. This is from Scar, but the ones on the side here don't require it. All right, unless you get to the top. Everyone at the top here requires a boss drop, and the one in the middle, but these here, they don't. Down here, the only time you require boss drops is when you hit like level 6 or level 7, I think, if I can remember correctly. So leveling up this entire tree takes at least 3 or 4 weeks, I would say, to be sure. It's not exact, but something like that. All right, because you have to level up these at the top first, and then you'd have to level each one of these up to level 10. They max out at level 10. All right, and then we have This is our resonance chain. We already talked about that, and we only have this part. Like I said, you need character, friendship, or intimacy to unlock this information. All right, so that is your resonator overview, guys. Next we'll talk about endgame. All right.